Somehow, not only is it not spying, but it's a good government. It's good government that they should know exactly how much money goes in someone's bank account in order for them to make sure that everybody's paying their taxes. And again, I've been talking a lot about this. It reminds me of the IRS saga some years ago with Lois Lerner, and that every day new. We started talking about that on the IRS radio hour, and thought it would be gone fairly quickly, but it lasted a long, long time because more information came out every day. One thing about this proposal to for the IRS to gather bank records from all Americans, the good part about this is it hasn't yet been passed. Last week, Thursday, we talked about the $600 minimum now for the cash apps. Unfortunately, that's already the law of the land. You can't change that. You can, and again, a lot of people didn't even know about it, still don't know about it, and maybe when they learn about it, they may be upset about it. But it's already the law of the land. It's been passed, and you can always repeal it, but that's more difficult than than we know. So the key here is not to let this act get passed or in the bill, because it's still being worked out. Whether that bill, infrastructure bill or the reconciliation bill, actually goes through, who knows? This is in the American Families Act or American Families Plan, the Biden administration, and part of that it includes the bank statements. And they need this, they say, in order to pay for all of this. They believe they can get $1 trillion a year. I think that's exaggeration. I think their own numbers shows that exaggeration. But they're trying to convince everybody that there's so many cheaters out there, and you're not cheating, so you should be against it. And I think it works for a lot of people. But first, let me talk about this article here. This was published on the United States government website, United States Department of Treasury website, and it's by Natasha Sarin. She's the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Economic Policy. Okay, so great title. And so I'm going to just read a little bit of this because some of this just infuriates me, and I'll obviously talk about it as we go along. A centerpiece of the administration's tax compliance agenda includes an important reform proposal known as financial reporting. This is the 1099s, which would expand the information available to the Internal Revenue Service. This information will help the IRS determine whether taxpayers with opaque sources of income are meeting their tax obligations. So they're going to check on all of you. Again, you generally were innocent until proven guilty, but now the IRS is saying, well, we're going to make sure you're not guilty. We're going to follow up, and we're going to look at all your records, and we're going to do an investigation and find out if you're guilty. If you're not guilty, good. What do you got to hide? If you are guilty, then we should find you. I always liken this to if we want to lower our crime rate, we should just allow the police officers in our towns to come knock on our door and come on in whenever they want and look around our house. They might find some crime. It would probably lower crime. And as here they say, well, then people will voluntarily comply because they're afraid that they're going to get caught. Well, doesn't that just work the same there? Well, we'll get less crime. People will be afraid to do it because they're going to get found out, because the police will come to your door, knock on your door, and come on in and look around without a warrant. But that's the stalwart of American society, right? Our freedoms, and it includes, I believe, our bank records. Those are our records, and they should be private. Again, there's some debate in the United States Supreme Court whether that's true or not, and maybe we could talk about that another time. But I think there's a great argument why it is part of our Fourth Amendment rights, and whether it is or not. The IRS or the Congress some years ago passed a law called the Financial Privacy Act that forbids this type of behavior. They won't allow it because the Americans were up in arms about this some years ago. Now it's 40 years ago. And so they passed that law. So here, congressional consideration of this proposal has been marred by misinformation, she tells us, as opponents have elevated the myth that banks will have to report all individual customers' transactions to the IRS. And I have blown up this myth. This is not what's going on. They're going to get every transaction, every bank statements from every American. but they will give them the right to get it. And so while they wouldn't have the capability of having all that information from every bank statement every month for every transaction, they can look at the overall and then ask for it. This doesn't stop that. Right now, in order to do that, the IRS has to have some sort of, it's got to have probable cause, right? They can get a subpoena. If you're being audited, they can ask for a subpoena and go to your bank and get all the records they want. And the bank has to turn them over. So it's not like they don't have this ability now. But it's more of again, it's a scouting technique. If you got nothing to hide, what are you worried about? That's their answer. So this is unequivocally false, she says. And in the scheme of things and the language that she uses, she's right. They're not going to get all of the information from everybody all the time, but it gives them the right to get all the information from anybody anytime. So it's a little bit different. And she knows this, right? This author, she knows that this is fact. So when she says it's unequivocally false, she's misleading you right there. She's objecting to misinformation by misinforming you. And an incorrect representation of proposals under consideration. Simply put, the financial reporting proposal in front of Congress does not mandate the individual transactions of any amount be reported to the IRS. That's right, not any amount, only $650 or more. See, so again, she's right. It doesn't mandate any amount. So that's unequivocally false. But if you read very carefully, any amount is, again, whenever anybody says any or all or forever or always, then generally that's a false statement in and of itself. But if she said most, if she said $650, well then she couldn't say that. Instead of the proposal would direct banks to report basic, high-level information on aggregate account inflows and outflows. Sounds like more than just the number, one number. It's not an inflow and outflow. It's inflows and outflows. Banks would add just a bit of additional data to information that they already supply to taxpayers and to the IRS. We don't need the bank to tell us what goes into our bank account. They do that every month with the statement. So we don't need the bank to give us more information. The only one that's looking for that information is the IRS. How much money went into the account over the course of a year and how much came out? Why is aggregate information? And I want to just point something out here because the title of this piece is How Financial Reporting Helps American Workers and Ensures That Top Earners Pay Their Fair Share. I don't see anything in here how it helps American workers. By making American workers give up their financial privacy to the IRS, that helps that helps workers. I don't see that. And I don't think she even makes an argument of that, except for she thinks the overall plan, Biden's plan, is overall good for all of America. So in that sense, she thinks it helps American workers. And again, I think it does just the opposite. Okay, so let's go. Why is aggregate information? Taxpayers who want to shirk their tax obligations know about and exploit this information shortfall. You mean we have a privacy in our financial records by law, and that's shirking my response. That's shirking my responsibility. So I won't allow the police to come in my house and look around, and so somehow I must be guilty because I'm taking advantage of that law by not allowing the police in my home. Taxpayers who want to shirk. Okay, so. Tax cheats play the audit library and wager that their noncompliance is unlikely to be detected, providing slightly more information to the IRS, as the financial reporting proposal would do, will significantly increase compliance because the odds of evasion being detected will rise. Again, same argument. I can make the same argument about our Fourth Amendment rights to unreasonable searches and seizures. If we just give up that right, crime would probably go down. For example, this is my favorite example. So let's listen to this example. For example, suppose a taxpayer has $1 million of deposits flowing into their checking account in a year, but reports only $100 of income to the IRS. There may be a benign explanation for this, but it is suspect and something the IRS can prioritize looking into when selecting returns for potential audit scrutiny. Yet today, the IRS doesn't have this information. So it is often left to guess when it makes enforcement decisions, resulting in too much scrutiny of American workers who already pay what they owe and too little scrutiny of invaders. Well, why would they have to have scrutiny of workers? We already know that the IRS says that they don't have enough people to answer a phone, right? So now we need more people to audit all of us. The financial reporting proposal strikes an unfortunate truth with today's tax system. And here's the truth, where how people are paid is a major determinant of whether they pay their taxes. So the American government passed a law some years ago that all employers had to report what their income was from to employees. And I think, again, and that's probably another invasion, but because they passed that law and because everybody is under that, most everybody's under that, now we need more. Because that's not fair that they have to and some people don't, and it's just not fair. Most working Americans who are paid wages or salaries, like firefighters or teachers, are making good on their tax obligations. Most business people are making good on their tax obligations. Who pays the most tax in our society? It certainly isn't the firefighters and teachers of the world. For these workers, the compliance rate on reporting their wages is 99% because it's reported by law. And that's why they said, well, see, if we just did this by law, then it would be. But what they're failing to tell you is that they're also going to find firefighters and teachers who are putting money through their bank account. Perhaps a teacher is tutoring people, maybe, and not reporting the income. Again, all income is reportable, and you should report every dollar to the IRS. Okay, but when you make the law so stringent that there's no room for error, for instance, in Chicago, when you can't go 6 miles over a speed limit, I think it's ridiculous. It's an overreach.